All right, fam, this is MG, the Reimagined Strategist. Welcome to the Reimagine You Lab podcast, where change is only a choice. So thank you guys for tuning in today. And per usual, there is somebody that is in with us today, and you never know who it is, but I'm telling you, dynamic people, always amazing. Somebody who's done something incredible, and I'm going to tell you the truth, this guy, what he's going to talk about today, what we're sharing is just incredible. So I'd like to introduce you guys to Philip Wride. And I just told him, I said, Philip, we're going to go beyond the bio. I'm not going to read a bunch of the stats and everything about you, but I'm going to let you introduce yourself to the audience. So Philip, tell them a little bit about you, where you're at and what you're doing right now.
Thanks, Michelle. Great to be here. For those people who don't know me, don't know my story, I guess the short thing is 22 years working in the video games industry, an entrepreneur since the age of 16, life-changing injury that changed my whole perspective on life. And the journey that I've been on in the past couple of years is now to help people. I started a personal development journey. There was an exercise of what's going to be said at your funeral? What contribution have you made to the world? And I sat there and went, not a lot. Started me thinking, started me on a different path. And so now I'm working to help people make changes in their own lives, much like you are with this podcast. So yeah, there's, I think, some things for us to dive into today and explore, because change is also one of the things that I focus on.
Yeah, no, I love it. You know what? So let's start with, this life-changing injury that happened. So you were in the gaming industry, and what were you doing? And then kind of tell us how to lead us up to the point of the injury, what the injury was, kind of what happened, and how you had to pivot.
Yeah, so I've been working in the industry for a long time, on and off. I've done other bits and pieces, but 2015, I moved out to Dubai. So my father was working over there. I visited him on vacation and went, there's no rain. This is great. Growing up in the UK, rain is something that we get quite a lot. So I decided to pack everything up. I was in a job that I didn't really enjoy, moved over. But as part of that, I guess, transition and change, I was able to start playing rugby again. So in the UK, I'd had shoulder surgery to try and correct an issue. Didn't quite work. The cold, the wet, I still felt the pain. Mm-hmm. But getting over to Dubai, where it's 30 and 40 degrees, a lot of the time it's a lot warmer, bit of rest time, I was actually able to start playing again. So I played in local competitions for local teams for a couple of years. And then January 2020, I was playing for a local team. And yeah, crash, bang, wallop is probably the best way to describe it. I made a tackle on an opponent, was then laid on the grass, looking up at the sky going, oh, this is painful. I couldn't move my neck, couldn't move my shoulders, got up, wobbled from side to side, drove home without being able to turn my neck, had physio for 7 weeks because I thought it was just muscle strains, and then finally went and got some scans and was told I had broken my sort of C5, C6 vertebrae and should get a plate and screws inserted.
My goodness.
Yeah, it was unexpected. I just thought it was, absolutely, it's major. It was like, muscle stiffness. This is the sort of stuff I'm used to. Give it a couple of weeks, it'll ease off, get some physio on it, it'll be fine. 7 weeks went by, no real change. So that's why I went and got the scans. And time almost stopped. You sat with the consultant and he's looking through the scans and you're like, so what's the verdict? Okay, well, actually, we suggest 6 hours of surgery. And what we'll do is we'll go in at the front and we'll put a plate and screws in there. And then we'll turn you over and we'll go in at the back and we'll do it that side as well. And I just sat there and, everything seems to stop. It's like, I don't know that I want that surgery. That's horrible. It could go wrong. I couldn't afford the surgery at that time. So I decided to not have it and put faith in myself and my body to heal, which thankfully it has. A couple of niggles with it, but on the whole, I have healed that broken neck.
Wow, that's major. Like, Philip, I can't say that people could do that, right? Like that is That's an incredible story. So here you are, you've got this injury now. There's limited mobility. It sounded like you had said, like when you got up, you're driving it. So what was that? So like walk us through a little bit of what that was like, like your regular life, because you're still working, right? Like you still
Yeah.
work and everything that you have to do. So what was that journey for you like? Like I know people are listening in, they're like, man, how does dude do that? Like is that possible? Like how did he do that?
It's tough, yeah. So I was wearing a neck brace for
Okay.
a long time. I was wearing it during the day. I was wearing it to bed. I was trying to find, comfortable positions that I could sleep in with this neck brace on.
Mm-hmm.
From a work perspective, I was actually working for myself,
Okay.
so that was okay. I didn't necessarily have to travel. I was working from home,
Mm-hmm.
but the challenge, or I say challenge, the
Yeah.
extra challenge, because having a broken neck in itself is a challenge,
Yeah,
but
it
the extra
is.
challenge was this was just before all the COVID lockdowns. So
Oh
I went
yeah.
from having a broken neck into also having 50% of my business disappear because there were no events all of a sudden. So it was almost like a
Mhm.
double whammy of, oh, not only are we going to have an injury that you've got to overcome, but you've got to try and keep your business alive at the same time. So yeah,
Yeah.
2020 was definitely an interesting year for me, and that's why as I got to the end of it,
Mhm.
I sat down and went, this is really not working. What can I do? So in 2021, I started my own personal development journey to say, okay, how can I start making changes? What is it that I need to do?
Mhm.
That's where I,
Mhm.
had the exercise of what contribution have you made, and that started me on a very different path. So yeah,
Yeah.
2020 for me, and I know for a lot of people around the world, was horrible in
Yeah.
many different ways.
Yeah.
But that, I guess, is the big catalyst for me to say, okay, I'm not comfortable where I am. I'm not comfortable with what I'm doing. I'm not, what is it that
Mhm.
I can do moving forward? And so that's started me on that path for supporting other people, sharing my experiences, and doing bits and pieces in the coaching space.
Yeah. So now being a coach, you have this experience now to be able to draw from. And I think that's the part that, personal development, like that's a space that I think everybody at some point in time is going to have a clash with themselves that says, hey, what do you really want that epitaph to say, you know when it's all said and done, when you have looked back over the course of your life, what have I done with it? What am I doing moving forward? So when you went on this personal development journey for yourself, I know what it was like for me, but for you, like you're a young man, you decide, okay, hey, I know that there's some things that I can do, that I can weigh up, pull on some of these experiences. I can help some people. I want to help people. What helped you to know that, what, this coaching is what I want to do. Like coaching is going to be the method or the vehicle that I'm going to use now to be able to help people. Like what, tell us how you made that decision.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because actually there's a couple of steps to this
Mhm.
part of the journey as well. And
Yeah.
having been asked that question of contribution, impact, what's
Hmm.
going to be said at your funeral, I sat there and went, okay, so what is it that I've done in the work? What experience have I got? So a lot of it was managing projects, working
Hmm.
with clients, consulting for brands and governments and
Hmm.
entities like that. So it's like, okay, so that relationship part, that helping people solve problems, okay, that's the sort
Hmm.
of thing that I'd already done in a corporate setting.
Hmm.
And the world works in mysterious ways.
Hmm.
The first part of this, I guess, coaching journey was in the education space, as in traditional education. So my partner is a teacher,
Hmm.
teaching sort of grades, what would be 2 and 3,
Okay.
out in
So,
Dubai as well.
hmm.
And she needed some resources and a lesson plan for her students for a maths lesson.
Uh-huh.
From the conversations we'd had over dinner, it sounds exciting conversations, but we talk about her students and the work she does and the lessons and all that sort of stuff, and the conversations she has with her teacher colleagues. And yeah, she needed something, but I knew that all of her students really enjoyed a particular video game.
Yeah.
So I went, oh, hang on, this is an area I've got experience in. Maybe I can help you create a lesson plan and some resources that are going to engage the students. which we then did. 30 minutes later, we had everything she needed for the lesson the next day. So that started me on a path to say, maybe I can use that experience to create some resources to help parents, to help teachers. And that's what I did almost for the next year. So this was pretty much through 2022. I created 1,000 maths practice worksheets for different games and different maths topics. I interviewed parents and child psychologists about how they manage screen time and online safety, because obviously that plays into the whole situation with video games as well. A lot of kids have spent more time playing during the lockdowns. I wrote my first book on the back of that, which is a combination of managing screen time and online safety and using video games to improve math skills. So I was in that coaching space. I was going and doing workshops with parents at schools and everything else. So I was using my experience from the video games industry just in a very different way. And so it was that transition into coaching. But actually, I've then gone a step further than that, because I decided to do an online challenge. So a 4-day online challenge for parents, again, guiding them through all of these different things. And as I was writing the slides for that challenge, I created a model, and it was 12 hidden things that impact parents and their ability to manage their child's screen time. And as I looked at the slides, I went, okay, interesting. That looks more like a model for life. Okay. Relationships, conveniences, lack of knowledge, and all of these things. And it's like, maybe I actually have a bigger mission here. Maybe the education stuff and the school focus stuff I can still do. But if this is a life model, and there are things here that are holding people back, not just from a parenting perspective, but generally in life, maybe this is something that I need to share. Because I could recognize in that model some of the stuff that I'd worked through myself. And I was like, maybe this is what I need to do. So over the past 6 months, I've gone, right, let's focus on this model, which is now my 12 chains model. So there are 12 chains that hold us back in life. I've written a book on the back of that. So I've just launched my second one. It's called Finally Find Freedom. And so now my coaching, a lot of it is focused on helping people uncover those chains, the things that are sort of hidden and holding them back that they don't realize, like relationships. There are 2 different types of relationships. There are those that are great and positive and we love, and there are those that drain us and we probably need to move away from. They're toxic, But a lot of people don't spend the time recognizing that. So it's like, right, guess what? Let's spend that time. Let's rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. If they're 6 or less, maybe we need to move on from them. And so, I've started doing that, and I created framework and the model and some supporting resources. And so that's the coaching that I now focus on, because freedom has always been my highest level value. I've been an entrepreneur since the age of 16 because I've been chasing that freedom. I've wanted that time freedom, and in the hope of doing that, trying to find my financial freedom as well. And I'm still working towards that. So it's like, now I see that as the mission that I have to say, okay, how can I help other people? I've had different types of businesses. Okay. I've had agencies, I've done freelance stuff, I've built technology platforms, all of these things. It's like, well, that's experience I can share. Me trying to find my own freedom, that's stuff I can share. This model and framework, okay, that's stuff I can share. I can help people uncover the things that may be holding them back. And so, that is now, the coaching doing and trying to share all those experiences, the conversations I've had with other people, and the models and frameworks that people can use to help themselves.
Get free. I love that. So what do your clients say? The clients that you're working with, what's some of the feedback been with people that you've worked with?
It's varied, because there are 12 chains. So for some people, it's like, this chain here,
Give us some examples of the chains. Like you'll have to tell us, because guys, listeners, he can't tell us everything. You're going to have to go and find Philip Wride. We're going to give you his information so that you can make sure that you get in contact with him, because if there is a chain that's potentially holding you back, we definitely want you to get the freedom that you need so that you can resolve it. But tell us, Philip, tell us some of the chains, because I think sometimes people don't necessarily recognize it, but speak to those people that talk about some of the chains, and let's see if some of the listeners can identify themselves so that they can get in contact with you.
Well, I'm going to go through a couple of the main chains, and I'll give you some examples
Okay.
of the work with the clients as well. So the chains are split into 3 levels. So
Okay.
there's self-directed actions at level 1,
Mm-hmm.
external influences at level 2,
Mm-hmm.
and then the mental images that we create at level 3.
Okay.
So one of the chains at level 1 is convenience. Now, it's one of those things that may be common to us. It's like, yeah, how am I using my time? And I
Mm-hmm.
can order on demand and I can stream until, infinity and all those sorts of things. But, one of the ladies, she went through the exercise for this, and her response was, I've always known that I fall into the trap of convenience, that I'm held back by this chain.
Mm-hmm.
But if I stop and think, the same energy that I spend chilling on the sofa watching Netflix, it's not going to be that much more energy if I want to build a business, if I want to do something different. So actually, it's going to serve me in the long run
Yeah.
if I use that energy to
Yeah.
be constructive and productive. So it
Repurpose
was
it.
that realization for her. It's like, I know I'm doing this, but then she sat down and actually thought about it properly and went, well, I could use the same energy for something different. So that
Yeah.
helped her again shift perspective to say, okay, well, yeah, what is it that I want? And so one of the early exercises that I get people to do is, what's the tale of your life? Okay, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a 4 grid. It's a grid of 4 quadrants, and it's time, activities, location, and experiences. So how do you want to use your time? What activities do you want to do regularly?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you want to be, or where do you want to visit? And what
Uh-huh.
experiences do you want? And again, some of the feedback is like, never sat down to really think about
Think
that.
about
So
it.
having to do this exercise and write it all down and go,
Yeah.
okay. And once we have that, so one of the other chains is knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
We often
Mm-hmm.
think we have all of the knowledge that we need.
Yeah.
But if we create that grid and it's like, I want to, I want to scuba dive every month. Well, do you know how to scuba dive? No. Okay. Well, there's some knowledge you need to gain. Oh, I
Right.
want to move to a different country. Okay. So do you know the immigration laws, the tax laws, the way that you
Yeah.
buy property? No. Okay. So there's some knowledge you need to gain. So
Yeah.
it's about helping people understand these things. So knowledge and convenience are 2 of the chains at level 1.
Yeah.
But then, we go further than that. It's like responsibilities, priorities.
Mm-hmm.
What
Yeah.
are your priorities?
Yeah.
What's your list? And actually, is there something on that list that's been given to you by somebody else? Because if it is, or if there are them, that's not your priority. That's somebody else's priority. They're trying to make your priority. So
Yeah.
let's assess that list. And so
Yeah.
it's taking people through these exercises in the different chains so they can, get to the point of going, yeah, there's
Have
some
that
things that I
awakening.
can change here. There's some things that I now recognize that I
Yeah.
can do differently. I can have different conversations. I can use my time differently. I can shift my focus onto the things that matter and where it is that I'm actually trying to get to. And this is an exercise that I ended up doing myself, and that's what helped me create the model and the framework. And that's why I'm now sharing it with others. And yeah, some of those conversations with them have been amazing. Because somebody who did their tail grid, and a gentleman, he was like, I'm really into martial arts. I want to go to Japan and learn. Oh, and then I want to spend a month learning to be a samurai. It's like, great, fantastic. Okay,
Yeah.
you've got it on your grid. Now you know what you're working towards. So everything else that happens in your life, you can ask that question. Am I moving closer to this, or am I going further away?
Yeah.
It's quite simple. But it's about having that clarity of what it is that you want to do, the experiences, how you want to live, how you want to use your time.
No, I absolutely love that. And I think that actually sitting with yourself and having that conversation, and I love, Philip, that you provide a framework and some thoughtful exercises around sitting with yourself and actually asking those questions, because most of the time we don't do that.
You don't know.
Oh, yeah, most of the time we don't. And I think that people, when they do ask those questions and really kind of, like think about it, most of the time we're so completely far away from where it is that we really want to go, that the constraints are really our own. We've created them ourselves. So I know it's real eye opening for people once they go through that. I love that. I love the self-directed and those external influences and even the mental images. Those are probably some of the biggest barriers that people have is what we tell ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Fear is one of the chains that level 3. So the mental
Yeah.
images,
Yeah.
the images that we create in our head of the worst case scenarios that are so unlikely to happen, but we stop ourselves. And I was in that, I was exactly the same.
Yeah.
My friends wanted to go skydiving. And I was like, "Ooh, I'm not sure about that skydiving. Oh, what happens if my parachute doesn't open and I go splat?"
Yeah.
And I've written about this in the book. That was one of the fears that I had. Is like, yeah, but the chances of that happening are almost zero. So stop worrying about it and just get out the plane.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
again, it's
Just go
that
do
thing
it.
of, we're worried of responses on social media. If we post a video, if we, try and make something of ourselves, what the reaction is going to be from other people. It's like, life's too short, really. Come on.
Yeah.
You're creating an image of something that may never happen. So
Yeah.
don't let
Don't
it
do
be
that.
an excuse to not do something or not work towards what you want.
Right. No, I love that. So tell us a little bit about some of the breakthroughs that some of the folks that you have worked with have actually experienced. Because I know that like people after they have gotten through, the framework and they are doing some of the work that they have been able, that they wanted to do, what have been some of the great results and that some of your clients have experienced since
Yeah. So
working with
one lady. So one of the just for context, one of the chains is perception. Okay,
you? Hmm.
the perception we have of things and people and situations,
Hmm.
and then the perception that we think other people have of us. Okay,
Yeah. Hmm.
so we create what we think other people are thinking of us, and we let that hold us back. So this lady, she works through the exercise that went with the chain of
Hmm.
perception, and she's
Hmm.
like, yeah, actually, I'm not taking the action that I should. So she then went and said, there's a person that I've been wanting to set up a meeting with for like 6 months, and I've just been too fearful to do it because I'm worried of what they will think of me and what other people will think of me. And she went, you know what? I'm just going to have to do it. So she went, set up the meeting, requested it for the next day, got accepted, and then she had that meeting, and actually she was able to secure some business on the back of it because she was willing to take that action, and she recognized that she was worried about what other people would think of her rather than saying, this is what I want, this is what I need to do, I'm just
Yeah.
going to have to go and do it. So yeah, stories like that, it's amazing to hear some of the things that people have been able to do on the back of it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. You know what? I think that's so important. I'm glad that we're in this conversation because I think that when people really do decide, and most of the time we just haven't made that choice yet. But when people do decide that, hey, I want to do something different, it's the outcome is always much more positive, usually, than we think that it's going to be. Like
Yeah.
there's usually some fear that's out there. There's some mental block that we have. There's some thought that we have in our mind that we have created that is, like you just said, the worst case scenario. Oh, this person doesn't like me. They're not going to be responsive. They're not going to want to meet or whatever it is. The parachute's not going to open. And in most cases, I would say, and I don't know what the statistics are. You might know what the stats, but I'd say at least 90% of the time, what we have thought and conceived in our minds is not at all what typically tends to happen. Most
Yeah,
of the
I
time, it's
don't
like,
have the stats, but I would say, yeah, it's so rare that those horrible pictures that we create in our mind actually happen.
yeah, no, so tell me this, what would you say as you've been doing this work and working with, with people and I don't know exactly how many clients you have worked through with this, but as you have been going through, what's been like the biggest discovery for you? Like, what has been the biggest thing that has been like maybe an aha moment or something that you're like, wow, this really is making the difference?
Oh, that's a tough question to answer because although the framework is there and I'm supporting people and working through it, I'm still
Hmm.
working through some of these chains myself.
Yeah.
So there's the perspective of, okay, what are other people doing? How are they using it? How are they changing? And then there's, how am I changing
Hmm.
using this framework and the breakthroughs that happen because of that? one of the things that I realize, and I've almost turned it into a mantra for it, is the word freedom. Okay, so freedom for me, and what I share with people, is focused repetition enables experiences, dreams, opportunities, and money. So we can decide to make a change, but we then have to be consistent with that change. So the focused repetition of whatever it is actually what's going to get us to where we want to be. So I end up sharing people with that. And that's something, again, I recognized for myself. It's like, I need to be consistent if I'm going to make these changes. So I gave up alcohol last year. Okay. But living in Dubai, one of the things that happens over here was Friday, it's now Saturdays. You go for 3 hours and it's all you can eat and all you can drink, and then you can carry on and you can pay a bit more. You can keep drinking for another 3 hours and then go on to the early hours if you want to. I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. It doesn't work for me. So I went, right, I'm going to give up alcohol. But every time I go out, my friends for the first couple of months were like, oh, you're having a drink. Oh, there's this on offer, there's that on offer. I was like, no. I had to be consistent and do that repetition of saying no. And now they don't even ask. Now it's more of a joke of, oh, you're so boring now because you don't drink. It's like, that's fine. I can cope with that. It doesn't bother me. I'm comfortable in the decision that I've made, and I'm being consistent, doing the repetition of saying no. So, there's things like that as I've been going through this and working with other people, it's like, how can I also help them think about the whole situation differently? So, that as a sort of a mini mantra is one of the things that I have realized as I've been going through this process.
I love that. Okay, so you'll have to say that again. Freedom is what's the acronym again?
Focused repetition enables experiences, dreams or desires, opportunities, and money.
I love that. It's so good. So good. All right. So, and I think that is great that you said, and I'm glad that you shared that, hey, as I'm working with people through this process, I'm also going through this process too. It's good for us to eat off the food that we present to other people, right? I think,
so another example, if I just share with you quickly again, to also demonstrate to my clients about consistency, I set myself a year-long challenge to do a 2-minute video and post it on social every day.
A 2-minute video post on social every day. I love
it. Which I've been doing. I'm currently on about day 140 or something. But it was to demonstrate to myself that I could be consistent, but also to demonstrate to my clients it's possible to be consistent. Again, you just have to decide to do it and take each step and say, it's another day. What does that mean? Okay, here are the things that I want to do. And that's where one of the exercises that I have them do is a freedom tracker. It's okay, what are the things that you said you're going to do? What are the things you want to do more of? What are the things you want to do less of? Okay, let's just track that. Let's see how we go. Let's see that progress and that consistency. So I'm demonstrating that to myself and to them to say, look, it is possible.
It is possible. You know what? One of the things that during the Olympics, was it last year or the year before? But Nike had a beautiful slogan that I just stole. Like I use this all the time. But it was, the campaign was called, they would say, normally you would say nothing is impossible, but they flipped it and was like, impossible is nothing.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is so good. I was like, I'm using that. I'm using that every chance I get. And it's so true, because you know what? There are no impossibilities. Like anything that you really want to do, you can. Like all you have to do is give it a try, give it a shot, figure it out. And most of the time when you are in the process of trying and working through things and being consistent, other people are right along there with you, encouraging, supporting you, providing, whatever motivation to keep you in the journey. You have that network and support that's going to be in there with you. Like when people see you doing something good, like they want to, hey, what can I do to help? And then it usually encourages somebody else. So it becomes almost like a chain reaction. Other people jump in and they're like, you know what? Hey, if you're doing it and working on your goals, I'm going to do it and work on mine too.
Yeah. I mean, there's normally an initial reluctance from other people, because again, you're making changes, you're moving out of your comfort zone. They see you making changes and they're like, oh, I'm not making changes in my own life yet. I now feel bad for myself.
Yeah.
But as you start to make changes, those people around you see that it's possible because you're doing it, and it
Mm-hmm.
almost gives them permission to start making changes for themselves. So there may be that initial resistance and reluctance, but as
Mm-hmm.
you continue on your journey and demonstrate what is possible, and you're being consistent and you're making the changes, it
Mm-hmm.
almost gives them permission to start making changes. And that's where then they support you, because
Yeah,
you've inadvertently helped them start on their journey of change.
absolutely. You know what? And changes it's tricky. It's almost like, it's harder. People think, God, it's hard, it's tough. It's the consistency that makes it easier. What you keep doing, you just keep doing it. You change your habits, you change your thoughts, you change
Yep,
your focus, and then things that you wanted to change. They really
absolutely.
do. They really do. What have you found has been like, so the greatest thing for what would you say is the or what would you give as the greatest piece of advice for change, for those that those who are tuning in and listening to our conversation now? Like, what would you give as your biggest piece of advice that either you've ever gotten or that you just currently share? What would you tell people as it relates to change?
Oh, that's tough because there's so many things that all come together. It's like it's like four, five,
You don't
six
have to do
different things
one.
that you could
You don't have to do one, just one. Do a few.
Um, it all starts with a decision. So that's the
Mhm.
first thing. If you decide to change, then it's about what steps you can take. And the
Mhm.
great thing is, it doesn't need to be a massive leap straight off the bat.
Mhm.
Depending on the philosophies that you sign up to, the books that you read. I love James Clear's Atomic Habits. It's like just 1% improvement every day. Again, and that's
Mhm.
where the consistency also plays a part in that. So if you can get a little bit better, if you can
Yeah.
you've said you want to make a change. So if you can be consistent and do that new thing or that new behavior a little bit every day over time, you are going to be different. Another way of looking at that, and I've heard various people talk about this, is if you just change 1 degree in the direction that you're going, for the first couple of days, there's not much change. Give it a year, completely different direction, completely different place.
Absolutely.
And I think it's that mindset to say, yes, I'm going to change. I'm going to make the decision. Early doors, first couple of days, weeks, months, I'm not going to see much difference. But over
Mhm.
time, it's that compound. It's that using the
Yeah.
consistency, those small improvements every day. It will have a big difference in the long term.
Absolutely. No, that's so good. Good advice. Good advice. So, as you have been as we were talking, you had said something earlier about before we jumped on. I always have a little bit of a conversation before we actually come on, but you were talking about um when you even got started as a life coach, and you were talking about or actually we were actually on, and you were talking about working with your partner in, like, you were kind of in she was in the education space, and you guys were working through, essentially leveraging who you are, what you knew, in a space that was a little bit different. um talk a little bit about being able to kind of see something different, because I think sometimes people get fixated or get stuck in, hey, this is what I've always done, this is who I am, this is what I know, and so, like, it can't be used differently, like that experience can't be leveraged to do something new. But in most cases, what you're doing, I always think of it as transferable skills. The skills are still relevant no matter what industry, what vertical, what network. It can all be used to do something different. So talk a little bit about, for those who might be listening in and thinking, what, I'm fine just with what I'm doing, and I don't even see a path for me to make any type of change. Talk a little bit about, like, just being able to carve out a different path in leveraging what I call transferable skills to do something different.
Yeah, transferable skills, absolutely. It's a key thing, both, for yourself as an individual, any work that you do, business and so forth. And that's one of the things that I realized, because that situation with my partner is like, do I fully understand the education space? No. Do I understand what you've told me you need for tomorrow? Yes. Can I see, because again, I've had, I've kept an open mind to say, okay, I've been, working in the industry for so long. And it's like, yeah, I've had governments asking me to write them a strategy. Is that relevant to what my partner needs tomorrow? No. That's fine. I can understand that. But where are the bits that I can cross over? Where are those transferable skills? What are strategy, solving a problem. Oh, you've got a problem right now. You need some resources and things for tomorrow. Okay, let's think about that. What can we piece together? So I think there are always transferable skills. It's about whether we have, the open mindset to say, I've been doing something for X number of years. I've got this experience. Okay, how can I take that? It might not be a like for like, but with a little tweak, okay, maybe I can use that. I'm used to managing a project. I'm used to working with people. Okay, great. Well, what does that mean? Is it small people? Is it big, adults? Is it young kids? Well, you're still working with people. So there may be a tweak that you need to make. And this was the biggest thing that I found. So with relationship work, clients, big corporates, governments, I mentioned that. It's like, okay, so I'm generally working with adults.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I find myself in a situation where I'm going into the classroom, working with young kids on the math stuff, doing stuff with the video games. So, one of the projects that I did, there was a coding competition, there was a gaming competition for kids in schools. It's like, I have never, ever been into a school environment, worked with kids. Granted, I have a niece and nephew, but that's very different. I know them as individuals. I'm not just suddenly coming in as an external person that they've never seen before. I've never been into that environment. It's like, what do I know? I know how to run a tournament. I know the basics of the game. Okay, great. So those are things that I can take with me wherever I go.
Yeah.
So now I just need to reposition my thinking to say, okay, my audience here is different. It's kids. I have to respect the school rules. I need to watch my language because I'm in a school environment. Okay, but the goal is still the same as if I was working with adults and doing exactly the same thing. Okay, great. I can understand that. So a lot of the times there are things that we can cross over. There are those transferable skills, that experience and that knowledge. We just need to think about how we can repackage it so that it's relevant to a new opportunity or a new environment.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. And it can be packaged. It can be used in a new way, in a new environment with new people. You just have to give it an opportunity to. You just got to think about it, and strategically think, hey, can this be done? And in most cases, yes, it can. How do you do it? Who do I do it with? No, I love this. This has been so good. So and I know that we're going to be coming close up on time here. I always hate when the conversations have to end. As you have been doing, I've heard you say it a few times, about that work in relationships, like with people, because a lot of times, our work, everything that we do is going to involve other people. Even with the insurgence of AI, you still are going to be working with other people, right? And so what would you tell people in getting started? My encouragement to everyone is, most of the work that we need to do, you're not going to do alone. You're going to need some help, some assistance, some type of support, whether it's a mentor, whether it is a coach, somebody, kind of helping you or guiding you along a path, showing you what's actually possible. I know when I think about my coaches, and I have different coaches for different things, right? And so it's important, sometimes to have somebody who can see maybe a little further beyond what you can see directly. So how do you tell people, or what's been your encouragement for folks as they are thinking about change and wanting to make a change and things like that? What's your recommendation in terms of relationships and how they start on that journey?
So I'd actually give two thoughts for this, if I may.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
The first is that not everybody is the right fit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful that the people that I work with, my clients and people in the community, have said, Phil, I think you're the right person to help me. And I know I'm now supporting them, but I know that there's just as equally a number of people who's like, Phil, you're English. I can't get with that. That's fine. It's not going to work for me. I need to go and find somebody else. It's like, that's absolutely fine. In the same way that I've spent tens and thousands of dollars on coaches, and some of them I've got into the programs, I've started with them, and it's just like, this is not the right fit for me. So it's doing that, I guess, due diligence in the same way that you may do on buying a house or buying a car and, thinking about a new job or anything like that. It's finding the people that you connect with who can help you, which actually then leads into my second point. It's like, also find the people who have been through a similar thing that you're trying to work through. It may be, okay, you want to start a business to break away from a corporate career. Fantastic. So find somebody who has been able to do that in a relevant area. There's no point you going to someone who's already at 7 and 8 figures and they've forgotten what it was like, because the type of advice and support they give you will be very different.
Yeah.
So it's about finding people who, yes, have some of the experience, but are able to share it in a way that you can make use of it, that you can get the value that you're looking for, so you can take that step forward, you can make that change. I've talked about the 12 chains model. That's a model that I've worked through, so I can talk to people about that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're looking at deep relationships, emotional relationships and things like that, it's like, you know what? Here's a relationship coach. I'm going to direct you because that's not my area of expertise. Likewise, you want to set up a business and you want to just focus on writing books and trying to build through Amazon royalties. You know what? Here's somebody who specializes in that. So it's about finding the people who have that experience that's relevant to where you are right now and what you want to do. They're not so far removed that actually you're not going to get the support you need.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. No, this has been fantastic. Philip, tell people how they can get in contact with you.
So I am on social. Normally it's my name, Philip Wride. If you want to have a look at my sort of community that I'm building, that's at www.freedomhuntersclub.com. And then if you enjoy a bit of reading, my book is available on Amazon and it's called Finally Find Freedom.
Finally Find Freedom. I love it. This has been amazing, Philip. It has been a pleasure having you in the lab today. Thank you so much for jumping in. It has been absolutely fantastic. And I know that the listeners today have gotten so much and are looking forward to connecting with you. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today. This has been MG and the Reimagine You Lab podcast, where we know that change is just a choice. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, make sure that you click the bell at the bottom so that you can get notifications each time a new episode drops every Friday. And make sure, if there was something that caught your eye and your attention today, make sure you share it. Make sure you save it. You definitely get in contact with Philip. He will help you get rid of break some of those chains that might be keeping you from the freedom that you're looking for. But make sure you share it. If there's somebody else that you think can learn something or gain something from what you just heard, make sure you share it with them, because we want to make sure that this is for everybody. When we talk about change and leaning in, we want everybody to get what it is that they need. So tune in again next week. I look forward to seeing you guys here. It is always a pleasure. Philip, until next time, my friend.
Thank you.